She thought she was just returning a forgotten watch. He thought it was another forgettable day. Neither of them knew that a single honest act was about to pull them into a story built on a lie that would start to feel real far too quickly. She noticed the watch the moment she cleared the table. It was too expensive to ignore, gleaming under the soft cafe lights like it didn't belong there. For a second, she hesitated, glancing toward the door where the tall, composed man had just walked out. Most people would have left it for the manager, maybe even kept it, but something in her refused that thought. She grabbed it, heart already racing, and rushed outside, weaving through people and traffic without thinking twice. She called, her voice breaking through the noise of the street. He paused just as he was about to get into his car. Turning slowly, he looked at her, confusion flickering across his otherwise controlled expression. She reached him, slightly out of breath, and held out the watch. "You forgot this," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heartbeat. For a moment, he didn't take it. Instead, he studied her, as if trying to understand why someone would run after a stranger for something so valuable without expecting anything in return. That kind of honesty was rare in his world, almost suspicious. "Thank you," he finally said, taking the watch, his tone softer than before. She nodded, offering a small smile, already stepping back as if the moment was over for her. No request for money, no attempt to continue the conversation. Just a simple act, done and finished. But for him, it wasn't finished. As she turned and walked away, he found himself watching her longer than he intended. There was something different about her, something unpolished yet real. It stayed with him even as he got into the car, even as the city blurred past the window. Later that evening, sitting in a quiet office surrounded by glass walls and silence, he looked down at the watch again. It wasn't the object that mattered. It was the person who returned it without hesitation. An idea formed, unexpected but clear. "Find her," he said to his assistant, his voice calm but firm. Hours later, she was finishing her shift, exhaustion settling into her shoulders. The cafe had quieted down, and she was already thinking about the long walk home when her phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello?" she answered carefully. "Miss, I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Arman," the voice on the other end said, polite but direct. "He would like to meet you regarding an opportunity." She frowned slightly, confused. "An opportunity?" "Yes, something that could benefit you greatly." "I choose." She hesitated, her instincts warning her, but curiosity pulled just as strongly. "I don't understand." "What kind of opportunity?" "You'll understand when you meet him, tomorrow. We'll send the address." Call ended before she could ask anything else. She stood there for a moment, phone still in her hand, the quiet hum of the cafe around her. A part of her wanted to ignore it, lower it, to go back to her normal life and forget the strange call entirely. But another part, the one that had chased a stranger down the street without hesitation, couldn't let it go. She didn't know it yet, but that decision to show up the next day would change everything she thought she understood about trust, choices, and the thin line between truth and illusion. She told herself it was just a meeting, just a conversation. The moment she stepped inside, she realized she had already crossed into a world that didn't follow the same rules as hers. The building was quiet, almost too quiet, with polished floors and soft lighting that made every step feel heavier. Adjusted her sleeves, suddenly aware of how simple she looked compared to everything around her. When she was finally led into the room, he was already there, standing near the window, calm and unreadable, as if he had been expecting her all along. "Thank you for coming," he said, turning toward her with the same measured tone she remembered. She nodded, unsure whether to sit or speak first. "Your assistant said you had something to discuss." He gestured for her to sit, taking his place across from her. There was no small talk, no attempt to make her comfortable, just direct intent. "I'll be clear," he began. "I need someone to play a role. Temporarily." She frowned slightly, not understanding. "A role de Wushbidere." Temporarily. She frowned slightly, not understanding. "A role? My partner," he said as if it were the simplest thing in the world. "In public. Carceries events. At events. For a few months." For a second, she thought she had heard him wrong. "You want me to pretend to be with you?" "Yes." The answer came without hesitation, without explanation, and that unsettled her more than anything. She leaned back slightly, trying to process it. "Why me?" she asked, her voice cautious now. He studied her again, the same way he had outside the cafe. "Because you didn't to hesitate to do the right thing when no one was watching." "That matters." She let out a quiet breath, shaking her head. "That doesn't mean I can do something like this. I don't even know your world." "You don't need to," he replied calmly. "You just need to be convincing." The simplicity of his words made it feel even more complicated. She looked down for a moment, thinking about everything this could mean, everything that could go wrong. "And what do I get in return?" she asked finally, forcing herself to stay practical. "I'll take care of your financial situation completely," he said. "Debts, expenses, anything you need. Consider it part of the agreement." Her heart skipped at that. It was more than she had ever imagined being offered, more than she could earn in years. and he said it like it was nothing. This doesn't sound real, she admitted quietly. It's very real, he replied. And it's controlled. There will be boundaries, a contract. You won't be put in any situation you don't agree to. She met his eyes, searching for something honest, something human beneath the calm surface. And when it ends, he said simply. We go back to our lives. Kuf force for lie. That answer stayed in the air between them, heavier than anything else he had said. She looked around the room again, at the polished walls, the quiet luxury, distance between this place and her own life. Everything inside her told her to walk away. But then she thought about the bills waiting at home, the responsibilities she couldn't escape, the constant pressure that never gave her a break. Terrace, orphan pre-deportifaperum cost the four numerous and Sachida Macjasepakor. What if I say no, she asked, her voice softer now. Then you walk out, he said, and nothing changes. That was the problem. Nothing would change. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, gathering her thoughts, weighing fear against necessity. When she opened them again, her expression had shifted, still uncertain but stronger. If I agree, she said slowly, I need clear rules. A faint hint of approval crossed his face. You'll have them. She nodded, the decision settling in even if it didn't feel right yet. Then I'll do it. For the first time, the balance between them shifted. Not equal, not even close, but no longer as simple as before. Good, he said, standing up. We start immediately. As she rose from her seat, a strange feeling settled in her chest. It wasn't excitement. It wasn't fear alone either. It was something in between, something uncertain. She had just agreed to pretend to be part of his life. What she didn't realize was how quickly pretending could stop feeling like an act, and how hard it would be to tell the difference when it did. She thought it would feel like acting. Memorize a few details, follow a few rules, and everything would stay simple. But the moment she stepped into his world, she realized this wasn't a role she could switch on and off so easily. The changes began immediately. New clothes arrived, each piece more elegant than anything she had ever worn. A stylist adjusted her hair, her posture, even the way she walked. She stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the reflection staring back at her. She looked like someone who belonged beside him. Someone confident and composed. But inside, she still felt like the same girl who had been serving coffee just days ago. You need to look like this comes naturally, he told her during one of their brief meetings. His tone was calm but firm. People will notice the smallest hesitation. She nodded, trying to absorb everything at once. And if I make a mistake, you won't, he replied, as if failure wasn't an option. That answer stayed with her longer than she expected. Their first public appearance came sooner than she was ready for. The event was crowded, filled with people who spoke in quiet confidence and watched everything closely. The moment he offered his arm, she hesitated for a fraction of a second before taking it. His grip was steady, grounding in a way she didn't anticipate. Relax, he said under his breath, just loud enough for her to hear. Doing fine. She wasn't sure if he was reassuring her or reminding her to stay in character. Either way, she straightened slightly, forcing herself to match his pace as they walked in together. Eyes followed them instantly. He could feel the attention, the silent questions, the quiet judgments, but he didn't react to any of it. He moved as if he belonged there, as if none of it mattered, and slowly she began to mirror that confidence step by step. Conversations came and went. She smiled when needed, spoke carefully, and stayed close enough to him to make everything believable. At one point, his hand rested lightly against her back, guiding her through the crowd. It was a small gesture, part of the act, but it felt unexpectedly real. She felt it instantly, the change in distance, the quiet tension that came with it. This wasn't part of the agreement, he said quietly. I know, she replied, her voice just as soft. Neither of them stepped back. For the first time, the contract felt like more than just a boundary. It felt like a barrier they were both standing too close to, unsure if they should cross it or protect it. But reality has a way of reminding people where they stand. The next morning, everything shifted again. A headline, a photo, they weren't prepared for. The story of their relationship had spread further than expected, drawing attention from people who didn't believe in coincidences or simple explanations. And with that attention came pressure, the kind that didn't care about truth or feelings. She saw it in his expression before he said anything. The walls were back, stronger than before. This just got more complicated, he said, his tone returning to the controlled calm she had grown used to. She nodded slowly, though something in her chest felt heavier than it should have. What happens now? Didn't answer right away, because the truth was, what they had started was no longer something he could fully control, and what they were beginning to feel was something neither of them had planned for.